In this class, we revise the lessons kinematics and laws of motions. We see first kinematics. In this case, kinematics. We see the motions of the bodies. That motions are concept of rest and motions. We explain these frames of reference. What is frames of reference? You already know. If we imagine a coordinate system and the position of an object is described relative to it, then such a coordinate system is called frame of reference. You already know these are all. And this is a right hand coordinates. It means that it is anti-clockwise direction. We take x and y, z axis are taken as anti-clockwise directions. It is a right hand coordinate systems. In this case, what is that? X, y, z. These are in the clockwise direction. It is a left-handed coordinate system. In physics, we mostly use this right-hand coordinate system. Then point mass. Point mass. What is point mass? Point mass is a relative term. Okay, point mass does not exist if often simplifies our calculation. Point mass is a relative term. It has meaning only with respect to the reference frame and with respect to the kind of motion that we analyze. Okay. Then example for point mass or sun. We take sun and earth. The distance of sun and earth are very larger. So we take sun and earth are a point mass. Then types of motion: linear motion, circular motion, rotational motions. Then this linear motions are example of linear motions are athletic running. These are all 3-mark questions. Linear motions, circular motion and rotational motions. Explain the types of motions. 3 marks questions are 5 marks. They ask this question and definitions asked. They combine the definitions and these types of motions. Then in this case, circular motion. What is the linear motions example? Athletic running on a straight track. And circular motion, the whirling motion of a stone stretched to a string. You already, these are all known. And rotational motion. What is that rotational motion example? That is spinning of earth about its own axis. And vibratory motion. Vibratory motions, vibration of a string on a guitar. Then motion in one direction. And in this vibration motion and these 4 types of motions include the other types of motions like elliptical motion and helical motions are also possible. Motion in 1, 2 and 3 dimensions. So one dimension motions, that is one dimension motion is the motion of a particle moving along a straight line. You already know that is a motion of a straight along a straight railway track, an object falling free under gravity close to earth. These are all example for one dimensional motion. And athlete athlete running on a straight track also a one dimensional motion. And two dimensional motion, that is a curved path in a plane, that it is said to be in 2-dimensional motion. Okay, this one this 1 dimension, 2 dimension and 3 dimensions motions are write short notes on. They ask the questions. 3 marks or 5 marks with examples, suitable examples. And next, elementary concepts of vector algebra. That is vector algebra. In this case, to understand the physical quantities, it is very important to know the properties of vectors and scalars. You study in lower class vectors and scalars. What is vector? Vector, a quantity. It is a quantity which is described by both magnitude and direction. It have both magnitude and direction. But in the case of scalar has only magnitude. The example for scalar is distance, mass, temperature, etc. And vector quantity, velocity, acceleration, force, etc. These are 2 mark questions. Then magnitude of a vector symbol. Okay, then types of vectors. These are also 2 marks, 3 mark questions. Equal vectors. What is the types of vectors? Equal vectors, collinear vectors, parallel vectors. Collinear vectors are divided into 2 types, that is parallel vector and anti-parallel vector, and unit vector, orthogonal unit vector. These are all 3 mark questions. Then additions of vectors. Draw the diagrams also. Diagram is very important, so must draw the diagram. Then addition of vectors. Triangle law of addition method and parallelogram law of addition. Parallelogram law of vectors. Triangle law of addition method. Okay, this is a 5 mark question. Triangle law of addition method. So must draw the diagram for this one. This diagram. Okay. Then and in this case you must write this derivation also. Direction of resultant vectors. Okay. Up to this one. You write tan alpha equal to tan inverse of b by sin theta by a plus b cos theta. Up to this side. This one you write. Then subtraction of vectors. In this case of subtraction of vectors, this is 2 marks question. Draw the diagram also. They are sometimes 3 marks also. Okay, up to this one. All tan alpha equal to b sin theta by a minus b cos theta. And concept of vectors. Concept of vectors. Components of a vector. 3-dimensional coordinates with respect to this vector can be written in component form, that is a vector equal to ax I cap plus ay j cap plus az k cap. In this case, in diagram, this is two components, 2-dimensional coordinates. This is a 3-dimensional coordinates system. See the examples also. Study well example problem also. Book inside example for problems. And next we see vector addition using components. 2 vectors a vector and b vector in a Cartesian coordinate system can be expressed. A vector equal to ax I cap plus ay j cap plus az k cap. B is equal to bz I cap plus by j cap plus bz k cap. So you add this 2 vectors. So a vector plus b vector, that is equal to ax plus bx I cap plus ay plus by into j cap plus ay plus bz into k cap. So this x is I j k or the xy components, corresponding xy components. In the case of subtraction, you write a vector minus b vector equal to ax minus bxi plus ay minus by j cap plus az minus bz k cap. The next one, multiplication of vector by a scalar. So a vector is multiplied by some scalar lambda. So you get the answer is lambda a vector. So the direction of this resultant vector is in the direction of a vector. So you get the, suppose the vector is negative, sorry, scalar is negative number, scalar lambda is get multiply the scalar value is negative number, so the direction of the vector is opposite to the vector A vector. Then scalar product of two vectors. So this properties, scalar products of properties are 5 mark question. So at least you write A vector dot B vector equal to B vector dot A vector. Okay, you write in this way, that is scalar product is commutative, A vector dot B vector equal to B vector dot A vector. Okay, take a column and write these properties, this derivation of these properties. Then distributive law, A vector dot B vector plus C vector equal to A vector dot B vector plus A vector dot C vector. And the product quantity A vector dot B vector is also always a scalar. If it is positive, if angle between the vectors acute, that is greater than 90 degree. Negative, if the vector angle between the vectors are obtuse, that is 90 degree is greater than theta, greater than 180 degree. Sorry, less than 90 degree is less than theta, less than 180 degree. So study well for this all points of this scalar product of two vectors. Then next we study well for all these problems, and then the vector product of two vectors, the properties of the vectors, that is A vector cross B vector equal to AB sin theta n cap. The product of two vectors properties. This is also a 5 mark questions. All points study well. So in this case, these are all you study well, which points I cap cross j cap, that is equal to j cap cross j cap equal to k cap cross k cap equal to 0. But in the case of scalar product, I cap cross j cap, I cap cross I cap dot I cap, that is equal to j cap dot j cap, that is equal to k cap dot k cap equal to 1. In this case, which case, that is dot product. In the cross product, that is equal to 0. And product of this two vector, A vector cross B vector, in this case modulus, you take a modulus matrices, you know, that take modulus I cap j cap k cap and ax ay az and bx by bz. Okay, then properties of the components of vectors. Properties of components of vectors, that is A vector equal to B vector, that is ax ij ax I cap plus az j cap plus ay k cap, that is equal to bx I cap plus by z I cap bz k cap. Equate this components, x y z components. Position vector. What is position vector? Position of a particle at any instant of time with respect to some frames, reference frames or coordinate frames. That is called position vector. That is r is equal to, r vector equal to xi cap plus yj cap and zk cap plus zk cap. Then next we see distance and displacement. A 2 mark. This one is a 2 mark. What is the difference between distance and displacement? And next one is a differential calculus. differential calculus. This is a 3 mark one. For an example, you write this example, differential calculus. And next, integral calculus. This is also a 3 mark questions. And next, we see motion along one dimension, that is average velocity. This is 2 marks, average velocity, 2 mark. And the instantaneous velocity, that is also a 2 mark question. And average speed, this is also 2 mark question. And relative velocity in 1 and 2 dimensional motion, this is also a 3 mark questions. Relative motions, so relative velocity in 1 and 2 dimensional motions, that is V vector VAB vector equal to VA vector minus VB vector, and V vector BA equal to VB minus VA. Memory this basic formula. Then these are all velocity, relative velocity. This equation is a relative velocity, that is VA B equal to root of VA square plus VB square. This one is okay. These are all 3 mark questions. And then acceleration motion, accelerated motion in the case average acceleration and instantaneous acceleration is a 2 mark questions. And the derivations also 3 mark. These derivations are 3 mark, that is we verify the components of accelerations. These are all 3 mark questions. And then equation of uniformly accelerated motion by calculus method, this is a 5 mark. So this is very, very important questions. All questions are important, but in this case this is a basic for equations of motion, is a basic. You already know, because in angular equations motions is similar that of this equations of linear motion. So we apply this equation in rotational motion also. These 4 equations are kinematic equations of linear motions. Then equations of motion under gravity, this is a 3 mark or 5 mark questions, this one. So study well for this one, that is we use these equations of motions in this calculations. This so the equations of motion is very important because of the basic we use in this horizontal motions and angular or oblique motions. Projectile motions, we use these equations of motions. And introduction, projectile motions. What is projectile? Projectile means when an object thrown in air with some initial velocity, then allowed to move under the action of gravity alone, the object is known as projectile. The path of the projectile is called trajectory. This is a 2 mark questions. And projectile horizontal motion, and this is a study of motion of a projectile. The conditions for this one, we assume that these are all assumption or considerations of this projectile motions. Then projectile in horizontal projections, this is the horizontal directions of projections. This is a 5 mark questions. Time of flight, range and velocity of the projectile at any instant time. Then speed of projectile when hits the ground. These are all 5-mark question. Then next, projectile under an angular projection or oblique projection. It is also 5-mark question. The path of the projectile motion is a parabola. Show that. Obtain the path of the projectile motion is a parabola. Okay. So maximum height, range, or 2 marks, 3-mark question. Time of flight or 3-mark or 5-mark questions. Then introduction to degrees and radiations. In first lesson you study this radian and degrees, 2-mark questions. And angular displacement. This is also 3-mark. Angular displacement, 2 marks only definitions. In the case of 3-mark, you must draw the diagram and all derivations. Let's write all the derivations parts. And angular accelerations. Angular acceleration is a 3-mark questions. A is equal to R alpha. A equal to V square by R. And circular motion. Centripetal acceleration also 3-mark questions. A is equal to V square by R. Centripetal acceleration, 3-mark questions. Must draw the diagram. And non-uniform circular motions. And what is that? Equations of circular motion, kinematic equations of circular motion. This is also 3-mark. Next we see laws of motion. Laws of motions, Newton's laws. First law, and inertia of rest, inertia of motion, inertia of directions. These are all 2 marks or 5-mark questions. And Newton's second law, 2-mark, Newton's second law. And next, Newton's third law, that is also 2 marks. The 3 laws are 3 marks. Then discussion on Newton's law is a 3-mark or 5-mark questions. 3-mark or 5-mark questions. Okay students, all the best, study well.